Torah guardian, speaking the absolute truth. Torah nation.
Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom. We going in hard today. Pulled up Dawid, child of Yah. Yah's weapon of war. I don't own the rights to this music. We are Yahuah's weapons of war. We are Yahuah's soldiers, his army. And you know, we recognize that there are times when the weapons of our warfare are carnal, right? Dawid functioned with a sword and shield, spears and arrows. But we also know that the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. See, the idea behind the whole theme, or the idea behind the weapons not being carnal, is the source of what we use in weaponry is the Ruach of Yahuah. See, because Dawid took the victory because he acknowledged Yahuah, and the spirit of Yahuah was upon him and his soldiers. And see, when they went to war, right, the Ruach HaKodesh caused David to kill his 10,000. He had soldiers, one that killed them 800 men in one battle with a spear. The weapons of our warfare were carnal at times, but the foundation of what we do is not carnal. Yeah, we don't wrestle with flesh and blood in the sense that every day we go out, we wrestling against flesh and blood. We know that the enemy is in the heavenlies waging war in man to bring about a dominion and a control. But see, we recognize that their weapons, right, their spiritual demonic influences, it's not carnal, right? It's spiritual. At the bottom of everything is spiritual. So when we fight, even in Dawid's time, it wasn't carnal. I mean, it was carnal, but the root of it was spirit. Yahuah. Yahuah Zavaot. Yahu. 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 Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Listen. Dawid, child of Yah. Listen, understand that Yahuah is a Elohim of the armies. And Yahuah and his armies have won all their battles, have not lost a one. And today we're going to look at Ephesians 6 through it's the last part of the book of Ephesians, 6, I think it's 6:12, 6:13, 6:10, right? And we kind of jump past the element of what Paul was teaching to family, husbands, wives, children's relationship with people, employers, all of that stuff. We kind of skip past that, right? And that's something that I'm going to address in the Ruach HaKodesh. But you know, listen. Listen. I gotta play that again. Yah, weapons of war, guardians, kinsmen, redeemers, Galah, God. Listen, we are Yahuah's weapons of war. We have to be prepared to enter battle. Right? We have to be established in Emunah, established in the Besorah of truth, moving in the Ruach HaKodesh. You got to have the Ruach HaKodesh. Because if you don't, you will be overtaken by fear. Because it's going to get rough out here, yo. But we know Yahuah is with us. He is our weapons of war. Listen, Yahuah, I give you praise, I give you glory, I give you honor. I thank you, Yahuah, for you are the word of truth. You are the Torah, the Besorah of truth. You sent Yahushua HaMashiach to redeem your kinsman, to redeem his kinsman. Yahuah, you sent him. And I give you praise for Yahushua HaMashiach. I give you praise for giving us the Ruach HaKodesh of power. Exousia. Dunamus, Yahuah. Yahuah, I pray in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach that the words that you give me, I give them. I pray that none of them would stumble, Yahuah, that none of them would stumble, Yahuah, but that they would all recognize your Torah of truth and take hold of it. Yahuah, I pray in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach that you, by the spirit of wisdom and revelation and the knowledge of you, the eyes of their understanding would be enlightened, that they would know what is the hope of their calling, and what the riches of the glory, with the riches of the glory, which is the riches of the glory of the heritage of the saints that is in them. Yahuah, and exceeding greatness of your power to them who believe, according to the working of your mighty power, which you wrought when you raised Yahushua HaMashiach from the dead. This power, this authority, this exousia has made them Torahs, weapons of war. Yahuah, I give you praise. No weapon turned against them prospers. Why? Because of the Ruach HaKodesh and the Besorah of truth. Yahuah, I give you praise. I give you praise. I give you praise. I give you praise. Ruach HaKodesh, I submit myself to you. Take the reins of my lips, Yahuah. Take the reins of my tongue, Yahuah, and reign over what I say. And I give you praise, I give you praise, I give you praise, I give you praise, I give you praise. In the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. We going in. Listen, listen. Dawid, child of Yah. Yah's weapons of war. Again, I don't own the rights to that music. But I love me some Dawid. I love me some Dawid, boy. What you say? Truth music. Listen, right? And that was an old cut. that was an older song. And man, I tell you, listen, I love that strength that comes from that song, that authority, right? Let's go in. We talking Ephesians, the 6th chapter. And chances are we won't be that long today, or we're going to be as long as the Ruach HaKodesh tells us to go. But understand this, in order to be effective soldier in Yahushua's army and the army of Eloah, right? You have to meet the requirements, right? You have to meet the requirements. Listen, I am an honorably discharged soldier of the military, the army, right? And in order for me to enlist, right, I had to meet basic requirements, right? And if I failed to meet the basic requirements, right, then I could not participate in the army. I could not serve in the military, right? And there were requirements with certain jobs, MOSs, jobs that you were assigned to in the military. My MOS was 95 Bravo. That's a military police officer, right? And there were requirements to meet in order to be a part of the military, right? And a military jobs and assignments, right? And if you did not meet those requirements, right? You weren't enlisted, right? Now, upon enlistment, having met the physical requirements, because there was a number of physical requirements you had to meet, push-ups, sit-ups, physical requirements, like you can't have flat feet. You used to have all kinds of little requirements that you had to meet, right? And once you met those requirements, you were enlisted, right? You were enlisted, right? But you still had to meet the training requirements, boot camp, right? You had to successfully meet the requirements of basic training, right? Boot camp, right? And the requirements of boot camp were stringent. Man, listen, the physical requirements and demands that they placed on us were stringent. I mean, listen, you had to be able to do certain things. And if you didn't, right, you did not graduate and you were not a part of the regular army. There were people that could not meet the physical requirements, right? There were people that could not meet the written requirements, right? And they were recycled, right? They were sent back into training again, right? And if you were recycled back into training again, the hopes is that you would be able to make it the second time, right? Right? Which is an indication of how equipped you were after your first training session, right? So once you get past the physical requirements, the boot camp, and you have successfully graduated, then you are off to the training, right? The job training. Our job training was military police, so we were police trained, right? And upon our completion of the academic requirements, because you had to take a test, right? If you passed, you were considered a U.S. Army military police officer, right? Right? But you passed the training, right? Requirements having been met, right? Because you got to meet the requirements, right? Right? Listen, they say anybody can get into the Army. Well, yeah, anybody can actually enlist, right? 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 And once you enlist, you still got to meet the requirements physically, right? You can't meet the requirements physically, you can't get in the military, right? And then once you get into the military, say you meet the physical requirements, you got to meet, right, the basic training requirements, right? You got to be able to succeed, be successful in basic training, right? But once you reach the basic training and have achieved this place, this accomplishment, then you are off to your academic, you're off to your job training. For me, it was military police, right? And then once you successfully completed that, then you had graduated, you had finished, right? And then now you can just go off and serve your country in the capacity that you have been trained for and to be successful, right? In Yahushua HaMashiach's army, Zabao, listen, you got to meet the requirements. The children of Israel left Mitsrayim, right? Children of Israel left Mitsrayim as a host. In the Hebrew, that word host is translated army, right? But though they were enlisted by Yahuah, they still had to meet the physical requirements, right? The demands, right? And as we know, about 3 months in, Moshe went up to the mountain after they had crossed. They had left Egypt as a host, got to the Red Sea, confronted by the obstacle of the sea, and Pharaoh and his army coming up on them behind them, right? Okay. There was the army, right? Like they weren't prepared. They were just enlisted. As enlisted recruits, right? You don't know what you're doing. You don't understand what's taking place. So it's up to that officer that meets you on that bus to tell you to get off the bus, get off the bus, get off the bus. Look, you don't know what you're doing. You got to follow instructions, right? Children of Israel didn't know what to do. Moshe didn't know what to do. He called on Yahuah. Yahuah said, stretch your rod across the water. They crossed over on dry land, right? After all of Yisrael was across and Pharaoh decided to come across as if he could get to them, right? Yahuah swallowed them up, right? 3 months in. After that, 3 months, they end up at the mountain. Still soldiers, still recruits, right? They getting their what do we call it? Our introduction into the military. We got our introduction into the military. We was actually in the MEP station. I think it was called the MEP station. And we had to sit in the MEP station until they was ready for us, right? Sometimes we sat in the MEP station for a week, right? And in the MEP station, everybody was kind of like cool with you. They weren't really hard on you. They was kind of like really nice family. Like made you think, oh man, this is going to be great. These people are wonderful. Let us go ahead and build an idol. Where Moshe at? Where's the drill sergeant at? When we go into our company unit? Where Moshe at? We don't think Moshe is here. He's been up there too long. Been up there for like 40 days. He's been up there way too long. Listen, we need an L. We need an L. We need a L to go alongside Yahuah. Yahuah. So at any rate, you know the story, right? Aaron made an idol, and Yahuah told Moshe, said, listen, you need to go down to them people, because your people cutting a fool. Right? He said, I'm about just prepared to destroy all of them and make a nation out of you. Moshe said, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. Because there's potential still there. There's still potential. And besides, you don't want the other nations to say that you brought them out here just to kill them. Come on, y'all know the story, right? Moshe comes down, finds him cutting the fool, right? Asks Aaron, what you done? He said, listen, you want to hear? They wanted an idol. I gave it to them. You will call the sons of Aaron, called everybody on the side. He said, listen, who's on the Lord's side? Come on this side. Everybody ain't. Stay on that side. And the people who were looking to be real soldiers, right? Those who wanted to follow instruction, right? Excuse me. Those that want to develop in understanding what Yahuah is and what he's done, they came on that side, right? But everybody else, they didn't come, right? They were destroyed. Yeah. 3,000 souls were killed, right? Same thing in the military, right? After you get through the MEP station, you get through the initial phase of the niceness and the euphoria, you're in there. Then all of a sudden, here comes the drill sergeant. Load you up. Start screaming and yelling, and then you get those who just don't want to obey. Woo. Yeah. They get released from the military. those that have a hard time following instruction, yeah, they get released, right? And throughout the time of the nation of Yisrael, there was a group in the midst of the collective, right, that was resistant to the leadership of Moshe, the leadership of Aaron, right? And eventually, Yahuah had to kill everybody off that he knew, right, that would not comply, that would not follow instructions, that refused to be led, right? Because you had to be led, right? And Yahuah put his Ruach in Moshe, or in Yahs and Yahusha, Joshua, put his Ruach in him and equipped him to take the next generation into battle, because they had learned and had developed, right, over those 40 years while their parents and everybody else was dying out, that did not want to go in to the land, did not want to obey, did not want to comply, just always obstinate. They had to die off. And Yahuah had to raise up an army. Raised up an army from an army. You know, he's done that several times, right? I think he did that with Gid'on, when there was a number of men that he had come down, and Yahuah said, you got too many of them. Everyone that does this, I can't remember, it's like the group, well, there was like 3 things that they had to do, and everyone that did those, I think it was 3 things, lap water and a dog, there was like 3 different things they had to do. Well, anyway, they may have started with 4,000. Let's say they started out with 4,000. In the end, they ended up with 300 men. Right, because everybody wasn't cut out for it. Right? Yahuah knew. And why send a bunch of people into a battle that's going to end up being casualties anyway, right? Why not go with the 300, right? Right? Go with the 300, right? Go with the 300, right? Because the 300 with Yahuah's Ruach, that's all you need, right? But the idea is here that Yahuah has a selection. He has people, right, who will obey his Besorah of truth, right? And in obeying his Besorah of truth, they will have received his Ruach HaKodesh and will be equipped for battle, right? Now listen, make no mistake about it. Yahuah has requirements, right? There's requirements. To be in Yahuah's army, there's requirements, right? You have to receive the Torah of truth, Yahushua HaMashiach, because he's the way, the truth, and the life. You have to receive the way, Yahushua, right? His way, right? His way is the undefiled, right? That walk according to the Torah of truth, right? Yahushua is the way, the truth, right? Thy word is truth. Yahushua said, the words that you've given me, I've given them. They've kept them. It's the truth. I've given them the truth, right? And then you have to experience the life, right? You have to receive you have to receive Yahuah's and Yahusha's Ruach HaKodesh. Yahushua said, me and my Father will come and live within you, right? The Ruach HaKodesh. Right? Got to receive the gift, right? And in order to be viable, you have to continue in this way, right? To be soldiers, right? Everybody ain't gonna qualify in Yisrael to be soldiers. Yeah. Gonna be qualified, right? People gonna die. Hebrews gonna die. Hebrews gonna die because they have not received the Ruach HaKodesh and understand and heard the voice of Yahuah, right? And they're going to do stuff. They're going to do stuff. They're going to do stuff out of fear, out of pressure. Not out of faith, right? And they ain't going to make it as the soldiers. Just like the people didn't make it into the promised land, right? Because you had to fight to get to the promised land. They just didn't waltz into the promised land. They had to fight to take the territory. You got to be prepared. You have to have the Ruach HaKodesh. You have to have the spirit of truth, the Torah of the law, in order to participate in this army of Yahuah. You have to meet the requirements. Now, the requirements is faith in Hamashiach, right? Keeping his Torah, his word, guarding his Torah, his word, being obedient to his Torah and his word, abiding in the vine, right? Keeping his commandments as he kept the Father's commandments, right? And in doing so, he's going to send you the Ruach HaKodesh, the comforter, right? The Ruach HaKodesh, right? He's going to quicken you, make you alive, right? And you're going to have what you need foundationally to be a soldier in his army. A guardian of the Torah, the Besorah truth. A man or a woman who will rightly divide the Besorah of truth. Will give out the Besorah of truth by the Ruach HaKodesh, spirit and life. All right, let's go. So we're at Ephesians, the 5th chapter, and we know throughout Ephesians, Paul is dealing with the importance of them recognizing who they are in Hamashiach, having received the Ruach HaKodesh. There's certain things that you know that just can't be a part of who you used to be. We know you used to worship Diane of the Ephesians. We know you used to participate in that worship, that Bacchus, that excessive alcohol, temple, pose, transgender, because what they would do is men would grow their hair long like women, and the women would shave their heads like men, and they would switch apparel, right? And they would have men and women come into the temple, right? And in this temple, they would have illicit sexual orgies and sexual relationships to their goddess, Diana of the Ephesians. Right? So we understand, right, that they don't do that no more because they've received Yahusha, Hamashiach, his blood that has redeemed them, that's purchased their yeshu, that has caused them to be a part of the beloved, right, in the family of Yahuah, right, caused to be sit together in heavenly places in Hamashiach. You now are seated in heavenly places in Hamashiach. Your Hamashiach is at the right hand of Yahuah. You are in you're at the right hand of Yahushua Hamashiach in Yahuah. Seated in heavenly places in Hamashiach, right? Seated in heavenly places. Now you know the seat, right, of the right hand of Yahushua is given to who the Father has chosen. Yahushua told the disciples, after he was one of the disciples' mother said, "Look, what my son sit on your right, son on my left." He said, "You don't know what you asking." Can't do that. That's left to my Father. But we got a seat in heaven. We may not have the right hand, so I may have to recant that. We may not have the right hand, but we got a seat. And wherever Yahushua is, at his feet, there's a seat. Hallelujah. Right? So that's Paul. Paul is laying the foundation, and now he's getting ready to close the letter to the church at Ephesus and gives them the final instructions. Right? Final instructions. Ephesians 6 through 10. Ephesians 6 chapter, beginning at the 10th verse. Now, Paul says, finally, the last thing I'm telling you, brethren, be strong, right? Be strong. Now, I'm telling you to be strong because there's no reason for you not to be. I didn't say to you, be strong if you can. I didn't say be strong if you like. He says, finally, be strong in who? In Adonai. Right? Now, to be strong in Adonai is to walk in the Ruach HaKodesh. To have the Ruach HaKodesh on the inside of you. Right? To abide in the word of Yahuah, the word of Yahusha, and being strong in his Ruach HaKodesh, right? Because that's in Elu. Your strength is from the Ruach HaKodesh. He says, be strong in Elu and the power of his might. And you shall receive power, dunamus, after the Ruach HaKodesh is come upon you, and ye shall be witnesses. Listen, finally, my brethren, my sisters, my akis and my okotis, my emas and my elders, finally be strong in Adonai, right? And in the power of his might. Yahusha says, when I come, the Father will send a comforter. And him and I will come to you, right? In the Ruach HaKodesh, right? That's the difference between the Torah and the original covenant and the renewed covenant, right? The Father will come in, and Yahushua will come in, and they will rest in you forever. Whereas under the old covenant, he rested in Dawid. He rested in certain people. His anointing was placed on them. But most of the people didn't operate like that. They didn't have the Ruach HaKodesh with them all the time. So the new renewed covenant put that Ruach on the inside of you. In the original covenant, Yahuah put it on whoever he wanted to, and that was it. It's still choice. He still chose to put it where he wanted to, right? Just like he put it in me because he chose to. But I received it as a gift. He gave it to me because I received it as a gift, and hence he also had chosen me in him from the foundations of the earth, right? But the strength that I'm commanded to exercise, the strength that I'm commanded to allow to be in me is that of the Ruach HaKodesh, right? He said, and you shall receive power. 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 That Greek word is
Strong's G 2904.
break that down.
Kratos.
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 Right? Kratos. It means force, strength. It means power, might, great power. It's the same word as dunamos. I mean, it's the same Greek word. I don't understand why they didn't Greeks, man. It's inherent power. Listen, it is not your power, right? He says, not by power. Who said it? Not by might, but by your Ruach. I think David said that. Wasn't that David? It's not by might, nor by power, but by your Ruach. By the Ruach of Yahuah. Right? So we ain't talking about finally being strong in Yahuah and in the power of his might, absence of the Ruach HaKodesh. The Ruach HaKodesh, also known as the Comforter, also known as the Holy Spirit, also known as the Holy Ghost, also known as the Spirit of the Lord, also known as the Spirit of Truth, also known as the Spirit, throughout the scriptures in the original King James. We know it's the Ruach HaKodesh, right? So the strength that we have is in the Ruach HaKodesh. See, I'm a guardian of the Torah, right? I guard the Torah. I keep the Torah, right? I'm a guardian of the Torah. I am called to guard the Torah. He's called us to guard it in our hearts. Thy Besorah have I hid in my heart, that I might not sin against thee. Thy Torah have I hid in my heart, the psalmist said, that I might not sin against thee. We are to keep the Besorah of truth, right? We are to be guardians. We are to be kinsmen redeemers. We are to be avengers, right, of Yahuah, right? Now listen, again, the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, right? We do not rely on carnal weapons, but they may be used at some time by the Ruach HaKodesh that will cause us to operate in them. I know, man, some of y'all don't feel like, we gonna ever need to use a weapon. We may never need to use a sword. Yeah. It's nothing new under the sun, right? What was done before it be done again, right? It's a revolving wheel. Yeah, right now, what we do is Ruach. Right? It is. It's Ruach. It's all Ruach. Doesn't matter if it's David killing 1,000 by the Ruach HaKodesh, or we're speaking the word, binding things in the Shamayim and having them bound on earth. It's all Ruach. Because Yahuah has to give you what you need in order to do it at any time. Ooh. Okay, so we have established where the power comes from. The power comes from the Ruach HaKodesh. We shall receive power. That's dunamos, inherent power. That is the Elohiym kind of power. That is the Yahuah Zava'o power, right? That's that radiant, radioactive power. Makes you spiritual Hulks. Not that gamma radiation, but that supernatural Yahuah Zava'o radiation. That's going to cause you to be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on. Hallelujah. Right? So we know that the power of his might, it's the Ruach HaKodesh in us. Listen, that's why, again, you got to understand you have to have the Ruach HaKodesh. If you have the slightest bit of doubt whether or not you have it, Yahuah, I pray, Abba, I pray right now, the person that's under the sound of my voice that has the slightest bit of doubt of whether or not they've received the Ruach HaKodesh, I'm praying right now in the name of Yahushua that you will come in as a mighty rushing wind and fill their house. Yahuah first, may they sweep and clean. May they repent and they purge. May they set themselves apart in their heart, repent. And then Yahuah fill them with the Ruach HaKodesh. In the name of Yahushua HaMashiach, have it, Yahuah, cause them not to vacillate, to be concerned or even worried about whether or not they have it. Yahuah, answer them in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. Listen, you got to have the Ruach HaKodesh. In order to be a soldier in the army, you got to have the Ruach HaKodesh, right? Right? Because Yahuah ain't going to use you for battle because you ain't fit for battle, right? And listen, you know what? Basic training, right? It met a couple, it was a weeding out process, but it was also a building up process, right? Because the first week, the things that we could not complete at the end of the weeks of training, I think it was like 3 months, 6 months. By the end of that training, that basic training, we could do road marches, we could do 5, 6, 10-mile runs. We could do all of that. First few weeks, man. First few weeks, people would fall out. We'd be running in formation. We'd running. Then you get the person who couldn't make it, and he'll fall out and start to lagging. And the drill sergeant will make us turn all the way around, right? Go back the way he is, come around and pick him up and keep running. Man, listen here, right? We had several soldiers, man, that just wasn't, they just didn't care. They weren't going to finish. And we used to pay dearly, come back around and get them, run for a while, then they'd drag back down, then we run back around. After a while of that, you start to get irritated. And after a while of that, the drill sergeant begins to recognize that this individual is obstinate. This individual may not even be fit for service, right? So after a while, you see that there are some soldiers that they recognize that just ain't gonna make it. So what do? They let them out. They don't waste time with them. Because if you can't follow an order, you can't understand the method behind us running together, right? You can't understand, or you don't care, right? All you care about is yourself. Then you don't understand the system, and you can't be a part of the system, because then you just a piece that's end up going to be a casualty, right? Yahuah, right? How many soldiers you got, Gid'on? All right, tell you what, we're gonna wean them out a little bit. They started dropping, man, and ended up with 300. Gideon's like, man, 300, man, with all you, if you with me, you gotta show me you with me. If you with me, Yahuah, let this happen. If you with me, let this happen. Woo! Yahuah said, I know what you need. I'm gonna give you the Ruach HaKodesh. The spirit of might is going to come upon you, and it's going to be in your men, and y'all going to be able to do some stuff with 300 that most people can't do with 1,000. By the Ruach. Oh, yeah. Let me see. Where is that at? Where is that at? Where's that? I'm gonna find it for you. I'm gonna find it for you. Find it for you. Let's see where it is. Where it is. Yeah, because we won't be able to. Where's that? Yeah, here it is. Judges. Judges chapter 6, verse 11. And there came an angel of Yahuah and sat under the oak which is at Ophrah, that pertaineth unto Joash the Abzerite, the son of Gid'on, threshing wheat at the winepress to hide from the Midyanites. And the angel of Eloah appeared unto him and said unto him, the Yahuah is with thee, thou mighty man of valor. Right? And Gid'on said unto him, O my Yahuah, if Yahuah be with us, why then is this befallen us? And where be all his miracles, which our fathers told us, saying, did not Yahuah bring us up out of Mitsrayim? But now Yahuah hath forsaken us and delivered us into the hands of the Midianites. And Yahuah looked upon him and said, go in thy might, go in this thy might, and thou shalt save Yashar'el from the hands of the Midianites. Have not I sent thee? Right? And he said unto him, O my Eloah, or Adonai, he says, wherewith shall I save Yashar'el? Behold, my family is poor in Menashsheh, and I am least of my father's house. Right? The last shall be first, and the first shall be last. Yahushua changes he chooses the base things, I think he says, to confound the wise. Listen, I'm not sure if that's the exact scriptural rendition, but the idea is he chooses that which is least. Because Yahushua and Yahuwah always wanted to be said that it was me that did it. I'm going to level the playing field. I'm going to decrease your numbers in order to just demonstrate my might, right? And verse 16, and Yahuwah said unto him, surely I will be with thee. I will put my Ruach HaKodesh upon thee, and thou shalt smite the Midyanites as one man. Depart not hence, I pray thee, until I come unto thee and bring forth my presence. Don't leave and do this thing on your own. Wait till I bring my presence. Wait till I bring my Ruach. He says, Depart not hence, I pray thee, until I come unto thee and bring forth my presence and set it before thee. And he said, I will tarry until thou come again. Don't go nowhere. I told you you was gonna do this by your hands, right? But don't you go out. Don't you go out there trying to slay the Midyanites without my Ruach. Don't listen. You know, when things pop off, you know, the thing about us as a race of people, as a nation of people, right? At one point, you know, we weren't as pro-gun as we are now. I mean, we always believed in weapons, right? We did what we did. Most of the time, they were weapons that were illegal, but we had what we had, right? But now, in these last days, the push is to secure weapons, right? Weapons. You know, I am law enforcement, or former law enforcement, so, you know, I have weapons, right? But under no circumstances am I going to take a weapon and go out and do anything without Yahuah's. Listen, I'm outgunned. I got a samurai sword. I got a 300 sword. I got 3 or 4 Bowie knives. But listen, I ain't going out there calling myself fighting Esau. I ain't doing nothing unless the Ruach HaKodesh tells me. And if the Ruach HaKodesh tells me, look, don't you open the door. Don't you open the blinds. I don't care how many weapons you got. I don't care how many rounds you got. I don't care what you get. Don't you close the door and wait for the indignation to pass. That's it. That's it. Look. Because, see, I'm like what Yahuwah told Gid'on. He said, and Yahuwah said unto him, surely I will be with thee, and shall smite the Midians I will be with thee, and thou shalt smite the Midianites as one man, right? For he said unto him, if now I have found grace with thee in thy sight, then show me a... Okay, that's what 40 story said. Hold I'm trying to find. And he said unto him, O Yahuah, wherewith shall I save Yisrael? He said, behold, my family's poor, da 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 da. And Yahuah said unto him, surely I will be with thee, and thou shalt smite the Midyanites as one man. Right? And he said unto him, if now I have found grace in thy sight, he said, then show me a sign that thou talkest with me. So now, Yahuah said, listen, I'm going to go with you, but don't go on your own. Don't. Verse 14, and Yahuah looked upon him and said, go in this thy way. No, go in this thy might, and thou shalt save Yashar'el from the hands of the Midyanites. He says, have not I sent you? And he said unto him, O my Adonai, wherewith shall I save Israel? Behold, my family is poor in Menashsheh, and I am the least of my father's house. And Yahuah said unto him, surely I will be with thee, right? And thou shalt smite the Midyanites as one man, right? So he had to wait for Yahuah's instructions, right? And then we have, he says, and he said unto him, if now I have found grace in thy sight, then show me a sign that thou talkest with me. He says, depart not hence, I pray thee, until I come unto thee, and bring forth my presence. Can't do nothing without the presence, without the Ruach of Yahuah. You can't, right? So I want to skip down. I wanted to establish that fact. And then I want to skip down, right? Where is the... verse 36 and 39. And the spirit of Yahuah came upon Gid'on. The Ruach of Yahuah came upon Gid'on. The Ruach came upon Gid'on, right? And he blew a trumpet, and Ebenezer was gathered unto him. And he sent messengers throughout all Menashsheh, who also had gathered after him. So now he done blew the shofar, right? He done gathered people from Menashsheh, right? He still, Yahuah put his Ruach. Yahuah put his Ruach, and he's still asking for signs. The spirit, verse 34, but the spirit of Yahuah came upon Gid'on, right? In verse 36, and Gid'on said unto you, if thou wilt save Israel by my hand, if thou hast said, behold, I put a fleece of wool off. So now he want Yahuah to demonstrate that it's really Yahuah. He wanted to know that it was really Yahuah with him, right? He says, and this is the fleece, he says, and if the dew be upon the fleece only, and the earth be dry, then he knows thou wilt save Israel by my hand. He knows that Yahuah will be with him. And it was done like he said, right? And Gid'on said unto Adonai, Gid'on said unto Yahuah, let not thy anger not be kindled against me. I will speak this once. So he wants to do it in the reverse. Right. And Gid'on. Let's go to the 7th chapter. Then Zerubbabel, who is Gid'on, and all the people that were with him rose up early, pitched on the outside of Herod, also Herod, so that the host of the Midianites were on the north side of the hill of Moreh in the valley. Right. Okay. Now let me see what's part. Oh yeah, verse 7, chapter 7, verse 4. Right. We talking about the selection of Yahuah's army. right? His selection process, right? And Yahuah said unto Gideon, the people are too many. You got too many people. Too many people. Bring them down to the water, and I will try them for thee there. Bring them down to the water. I'm gonna test them for you there, right? And it shall be that of whom I say unto thee, this shall go with thee, the same shall go with thee. And of whomever I say unto thee, they shall not go with thee, they shall not go with thee, right? Right? So he brought down the people to the water, and Yahuah said unto Gideon, everyone that laps up water with his tongue, as a dog lap water, him shall thou set beside himself. Likewise, everyone that bows down upon his knees to drink, right? So he did it. And the number of them that lapped, putting their hands to their mouth, were 300 men, right? But all the rest of the people bowed down upon their knees and lapped water like a dog. And Yahuah said unto Gideon, by these 300, so there wasn't multiple things. There was just one thing, right? I stand corrected. But out of all of these people, I got the number right. By 300 men that lapped will I save and deliver the Midyanites into your hand, and let the other people go, everyone to his place, because they just going to be victims. They're going to be casualties. They ain't fit for the battle. They ain't fit for the battle. They're not fit for the battle, right? So the people took victuals in their hands and their trumpets, and he sent all the rest of Yashar'el, every man to his tent, and retained those 300 men, and the host of Midian was beneath them in the valley. Right? So you got a buku number of Midianites. And you got 300 with Gideon. Well, y'all know the story. He got the victory, right? The end of the story is Yahuah, right, by the Ruach HaKodesh, upon 300 men, right? Gideon and his men, right? That Ruach was. And they slew the Midianites, right? By the Ruach HaKodesh. Let's go on. Finally, my brethren, be strong in Adonai and in the power of his might, right? Put on the whole armor of Yahuah, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil, right? So we understand who's at the root of this spiritual battle, this spiritual warfare, this natural warfare, because the warfare is spiritual and natural, right? But ultimately, right, it is what we do ruachally by the Ruach HaKodesh that will determine our success, or whether or not we operate in the Ruach HaKodesh that will determine our success. He says, put on the whole armor, right? Armor, right? Now, in the Greek, that word is
Strong's G 3833, panoplia.
parapia,
Panoplia.
right? It's full armor, complete armor, a shield, sword, lance, helmet, graviers, breastplates, right? These are things that you apply to yourself that is a part of the war outfit, right? Now, in the military, right, we wore BDUs, battle dress uniform, right? And in these BDUs, they were camouflage, depending on the terrain, right? Like over in the desert, and it was more tan battle dress, you know, in climates like Vietnam, Korea, they were green, right? Right, and that was pretty much the patented color. If you're in Alaska, it's white and gray. But at any rate, it's the battle dress uniform, right? The uniform in of itself is the identifier that you are in this army, right? Right? But in order to be battle ready, you got to have your equipment, right? You got to have your helmet. You got to have your M16 at the time. You had to have your rucksack, right? Right? You had to have your rucksack. You had to have a duffel bag, because if you're deployed somewhere, your duffel bag carries all your stuff that you need, all that stuff, your whatever you need to, throughout your time, wherever you are. You got to have your duffel bag. You have to have your armor, right? You have to have your breastplate, right? You're getting shot at. You gotta have a breastplate, right? On your equipment, there's all kinds of other things that you use. You had a sidearm, 45. I had a sidearm, right? I had an M16, right? I had a helmet, right? I had boots. I mean, I had all of this equipment, right? That was unnecessary because it was what was going to help me survive, right? He says, put on the whole armor of Yahuah. So putting on the whole armor of Yahuah, right? The whole armor of Yahuah, right? So we know that you have to have the Ruach HaKodesh, right? I mean, that's just the power that comes in. That's the power that you got to have in order to do anything in him, right? He says, the old armor that ye may be able to stand. That you may be able to stand, right? That you may be able to stand. Stand, right? It means in the Greek,
Strong's G 2476, histemi.
histemi, right? It causes or makes a stand, right? You have to be able to make a stand, right? Right? To bid, to stand, to stay, right? Right? You have to be able to stand, right? They would tell us to dig in, right? You got to be ready to stand, right? In this case, we're standing against Hasatan, right? And the wiles. Now, what are wiles, right? In the Greek, wiles are
Strong's G 3180, methodia.
methodia, or methods, right? Methodia, or methods, right? The cunning arts, right? Deceit, trickery, craftiness, right? Craft, right? Wiles. Satan's cunning, trickery, schemery, right? His deceit, his craftiness, right? You have to be able to recognize his trickery, his treachery, right? Everything that he does, cunning arts, right? Deceit, lies, craft, trickery, right? Hasatans, right? Verse 12, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, right? At the root of This engagement is Hasatan. Hasatan was at the root of the engagement throughout time. Right? Hasatan was at the root of the Midyanites. Hasatan was at the root of the Philistines. Hasatan was at the root of the Egyptians. Hasatan was at the root of Babylon and Persia and the Greeks and the Romans. Hasatan. Right? Right? We wrestle not against flesh and blood. Right? Now, we did wrestle, right, against flesh and blood. But the ultimate battle is spiritual. And if Yahuah ain't in control of the fight and he doesn't have the battle in you, look. If you don't have the Ruach HaKodesh, if you don't have the spirit of truth, you're going to be wrestling. And you ain't going to get the upper hand. You're going to lose without the Ruach HaKodesh. He said, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood. We wrestle not against flesh. Right? The Greek.
Strong's G 4561. Sarx. Sarx.
It's the body of man. The use of natural or physical, original, generational, or relationships. Born of nature. We don't wrestle with that. Listen, when somebody talks about you, right, says all manner of evil against you, what's at the root of that? Hasatan, right? The person is just the vehicle in which Hasatan is motivated in, right? And the idea is to set you in a place ruachally, right? Where you won't stand. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities. So we wrestle against
Strong's G 746. Arche. Arche.
Arche. Beginning and origin. A person or thing that commences. The first person or thing in the series of leaders. Principalities. That by which anything begins. So the principalities are the spiritual forces, right? They're powers, right? Powers are.
Strong's G 1849. Exousia.
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 Exousia. Exousia. Exousia. Power or choice, liberty of doing as one pleases, leave of permission, physical or mental power, the ability and the strength in which one is endued, which he either possesses or is exercised. The fallen angels are principalities, they're powers, they're rulers of the darkness of this world, right? So they are a hierarchy and structure, right? They operate in the realm of the spirit, right? Right? And they are the motivation, if you will, of the darkness that affects mankind in this world, right? That's why we are lights. If the Ruach HaKodesh is in us, because we're not in darkness. The light of life is in us. right? Light shined in darkness because we were once dead in our trespasses and sin, and darkness had dominion over our nefesh. Over our nefesh, darkness had dominion. The powers and rulers of darkness of this world against spiritual wickednesses in high places. Let's go back to Ephesians 2. Right? Ephesians 2:1. And you have he made alive who were dead in your trespasses and sins. Right? Wherein in times past ye walked according to the course of this world, darkness, according to the prince of the power of the air, Hasatan, the spirit that now worketh in the children of disobedience, right? The prince of the power of the air, the prince of the power of the air, Hasatan. Verse 3, among whom also we all had our way of life, our conversation, our manner of life in times past in the lust of our flesh, right? He had dominion over our thoughts, right? Fulfilling the desires of the flesh and of the mind, and were by nature children of wrath, even as others, right? But Yahuah, who is rich in mercy, wherewith a great love he has loved us, when we were dead in our trespasses and sins, right? Dead in sins, he hath quickened us, made us alive, in Hamashiach, our grace are you saved through faith, and has raised us up together, and made us sit together in heavenly places in the Shamayim, right? Let's go back to chapter 6. We've identified, right, that principalities and powers are attached to Hasatan. They're rulers. They're authorities. There's hierarchy. There's structure in the Shamayim. There is structure in the heavenlies. We wrestle not against flesh and blood. We wrestle not against flesh and blood. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, against darknesses and spiritual wickednesses in high places, right? Now, I'm going to share a dream with you. I think I shared it already once. I'm going to share it again, right? Yahuah woke me up one night, probably about, maybe a month ago, after me having this dream, right? And in this dream, right, I'm outside, right? Was sitting up under a tree, under a tree, right? And it was like early morning. It was like maybe 9 o'clock or something. It's early morning, right? And I'm sitting there. You know, bunch of people around, we talking, right? And then all of a sudden, darkness descended, right? And when you look around, I was looking up at the sky, it was funny, it was like this gradual darkness descending and descending and descending and descending. And it was almost like ships, but it was darkness. And it was getting darker, and it was getting darker, and it was getting dark. And I'm like, oh man, something's happening. I gotta go home. I'm running home, get ready, get my stuff, right? So I run home, right? Get all my stuff, my weapons bag, put it in a bag, take it at this place that was almost like a school, but it wasn't a school. But I take it and I stash it, right? And then it was weird because everybody was walking around like they was just one person, like, you know? And they was like, oh. I'm like, come on, man, we gotta take shelter. We gotta. They was like, no, we know who they are. They're not here to hurt us. They're our friends. They don't want to hurt us. They don't want to hurt you. They are friends, right? So in the meantime, there was a group of them that found my stash. My stash of weapons, right? Yeah, I got a lot of weapons, right? That's just because that's what I got. Well, anyway, so they went and they took my stash. And they started, like, breaking it up. Like, you know, and then finally, because I went back. I'm like, oh, man, I gotta get my stuff, man. These people loco, man. They want to take me. You ain't taking me like that. No, I ain't going down like that. You ain't, So I run back. And can't find my stash. Then I see this guy walking around with my bag. So what you doing with my bag? And then I open the bag, and it's like I had like a fraction of what I had in there, right? Thinking, oh man, right? It's like zombies, but they weren't like zombies. They were like one mind, as if they were all attached to the same source, right? And so here they are, you know, like I remember this lady. She's a white lady. She had honor. She's like, listen, there's no need to be concerned. They're not here to hurt us. They're not here to hurt us. It's okay. I'm like, oh, no, it ain't okay. And they started coming towards me, right? I'm like, oh, no, I'm sorry. I ain't going down like that. Yeah, I ain't going down like that. So, you know, I did what I did, you know, started shooting. Boom, boom, all of them. Didn't even faze them. They was like, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. And then I'm like, oh, no. So, you know, of course, you know, I stayed on the run. But, right, I woke up. I'm like, Yahuah. He was like, listen, there's going to come a time when this is going to happen. And it was more of a revelation of how the transition is going to come, right? And how people are going to be responding to it, right? Like, it's like a one mind connected kind of thing, right? And you will know what I'm doing. Principalities and powers. Principalities and powers. He says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, against principalities and powers, against rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickednesses in high places. And you know what? To be perfectly honest with you, it has to be more than a firearm and a bullet. Because it has to be Ruach. It can't be, you know, I mean, you know, you hear the occasional joke, even in Hebrews, amongst Hebrews, you know, yeah, you know what happens after Maxine, you know, I got my machete in my sword, prepared for zombies. We wrestle not against flesh and blood. Listen, if Yahuah ain't told you to do that, don't get in no position where you out on your own doing something you ain't supposed to do. Oh, no. I believe that. I believe that. I believe that. I believe that. I believe the Ruach HaKodesh gives me wisdom. Right? We gonna get there. Watch. We gotta hurry up because I'm running out of time. I ain't gotta hurry up. But I like to keep a certain time. Okay, so he says, against rulers, against darkness of this world, against spiritual, Ruach, wickedness. You have the Ruach HaKodesh, then you got Ruach wickednesses. Right? In high places. in the Shamayim, right? Now, not where Yahuah is in the Shamayim, because there's levels even in the Shamayim, where angels can operate, where demons can operate, that they just can't roll up to the Shamayim. Now, Hasatan has made occasion of making his presence before Yahuah, right? And in this, right, because, you know, he's the prince of the power of the air, right? He's kind of in charge, right? You know, so he comes up with accusations to the Most High. You know, he did it with Job, right? He does it with you. It's why you fall into the diverse trials and tribulations. But how you respond to those determines your success or failure. But their wickedness is in high places. Listen. He says, wherefore take unto you what? The whole armor of Elohiym, that ye may be able to withstand. That you may be able to withstand.
Strong's G 436. Anthistemi. Anthistemi.
To set one's self against. To withstand. To resist. To oppose. To set against. So we have to. Right? We have to take unto us the armor of Elohiym. Right? The armor of Elohiym. Right? We have to equip ourselves with the Ruach HaKodesh and that which what the Ruach HaKodesh gives us. That you may be able to withstand. Because this is how you're going to withstand. When the enemy presents the crafty, the treachery, the evil that he sends to you, you have to be able to withstand. You have to be able to withstand. You have to be able to withstand. You ain't got the Ruach HaKodesh, and you ain't going to withstand. Because without the Ruach HaKodesh, how you going to receive a word? How you going to receive information? Wherefore, take unto you the whole armor of Elohiym, that ye may be able to withstand when in the evil day. We in the evil day. These days are evil. These days are evil. You better have eyes to see and ears to hear. That's what the Ruach HaKodesh does. In the evil days, and having done all, stand. Having done all. All of what? This is what you're going to do. This is all. Having done all. This is what you're going to do. Having done all. Right? He says, therefore, having your loins girded about with truth. Having your loins girded about with truth. Speaking the truth. The Torah of truth. Yahusha, grace and truth. Having your foundation, your inner loins, being protected with truth. Hearing truth. Obeying truth. Walking in the truth. Having your loins girded about with truth. Having on the breastplate of righteousness. Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness. And thy Torah is truth. What is this description of the Ruach HaKodesh present in you, working in you? The Ruach HaKodesh does what? It leads you. It guides you into all truth. Therefore, your loins will be girded about with the Ruach HaKodesh of truth. What is he referred to as? John 16:13. Howbeit, when the Ruach HaKodesh of truth is come, he will guide you into all truth. For he shall speak not of himself, but whatsoever he shall hear, that he shall speak, and he will show you all things to come. The Ruach HaKodesh. Dream dreams to see visions. The Ruach HaKodesh. I'll pour out my spirit in those days. Your young men will dream dreams. Your old men will see visions. No, well, your young men will see visions. Your old men dream dreams. Well, either way. You're going to get information from the Ruach HaKodesh, the spirit of truth, that shall show you of things to come. He shall show you things to come. John 15:26. But when the Comforter is come, Ruach HaKodesh, whom I will send unto you from the Father, even the Ruach HaKodesh of truth, which will proceed from the Father, he shall testify of me. Having your loins girded about with truth, Ephesians 6:14. And having on the breastplate of righteousness. The breastplate of righteousness, right? Righteousness. The breastplate of righteousness. The breastplate of righteousness. What is we talking about?
Strong's G 1343. Dikayasune. Dikayasune.
Dikayasune. Is that the right one? I don't know if I get it right. Yeah, that's it. I'm going to play it again.
Strong's G 1343. Dikayasune.
That's the chaos.
Dikayasune.
Now the Greek is, in a broad sense, state of him who is as he ought to be, righteous. A condition acceptable to Yahuah. Right? So it is integrity. Right? Virtue. Right? Purity of life. So you have to be operating in the Ruach HaKodesh. Ruach HaKodesh doesn't dwell in unrighteous places. Listen. So we guard it about with truth, the Ruach HaKodesh. We put on the breastplate of righteousness, right? Virtue. Ruach HaKodesh. Having our feet shod with the preparation of the Besorah of peace. The Besorah, the Torah of truth. Having our feet shod. Our feet shod, meaning to have our feet or our shoes put on, right? And our shoes is the Besorah of truth, the Besorah of peace, the Besorah of truth and peace. The Besorah is the truth. The Besorah is the Torah of truth. Yahuah said, my peace I leave with you. Not the peace that the worldlies with you. How does what's the source of that peace? You got a Ruach HaKodesh. The peace is the comforter. The peace comes from the comforter. The peace comes from the Ruach HaKodesh. He says, and above all, taking the shield of faith. You have to have emunah. Right? And in having the Besorah, right? The Besorah, right? The truth, the Besorah of peace, the Ruach HaKodesh, the comforter of peace, right? You will have to take the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the devil. Now listen, how does emunah comes? By the Besorah of truth, right? What does the comforter do? It reveals truth, right? So in receiving the Besorah of truth, faith cometh by hearing, hearing by the word, the Besorah of Yahuah, Yahusha. Faith comes, right? Having heard the word, when the enemy launches his attacks, you have the Ruach HaKodesh calling to remembrance the sword of the Spirit. Your emunah, your faith in what the Besorah says, the Torah says, and speaking what the Torah says. Because listen, when the devil comes, you got to say something. Faith says. Faith says it is man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that receives out of the mouth of Adonai. You got to speak the Besorah in order to quench the fiery darts of Hasatan. He says, above all, taking the shield of faith. This is defensive weaponry, right? It's a defensive weaponry, right? Your feet shod. It's defensive weaponry. Breastplate. It's defensive weaponry, right? Your loins girded. It's protection for your inners, your loins. When the devil launches his attack, you have already had the Ruach HaKodesh revealed to you, called to remembrance the word of truth, which you have placed on your nefesh, or on your inside, that the Ruach HaKodesh brings to your remembrance the Besorah of truth. Listen, he says, taking on the shield of faith, which is able to quench all. There's no treachery, there's no scheme, there's no device, there's no trickery that the shield of faith cannot deal with. Your emunah has an answer for every fiery dart Hasatan sends. Your emunah, your faith, has everything you need to deal with every device, scheme, trickery, attack of Hasatan. He says, and take the helmet of salvation. Guard your mind. Right? Yeshua.
Strong's G,
That's salvation in the Greek.
4992. Soterias.
Saving, bringing, salvation. He who embodies his salvation through whom Yahuah is able to achieve. Whatever. You know what salvation is. It's Yeshua. Yahs. Salvation. Salvation is prosperity. It is protection. Right? Why would the salvation be on your head? Because your Yeshua has to be attached to your mind. You have to know. Gotta know. You have to know that Yahuah is your salvation. And the Ruach of the Spirit. Now the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of Elohiym. So the Ruach, you must have the Ruach, the Word of Elohiym. The sword of the Ruach HaKodesh was the word of Yahuah. Yahusha said what the Besorah said. Yahusha said what the Word said. Yahusha was the Word made flesh. The words I've given them, the words you have given me, I have given them, and they've kept them. Yahusha told us to speak the word. Whosoever shall say unto this mountain. What you gonna say? You gonna say what Yahusha said. You gonna say what the Besorah says. You gonna say what the Torah says. That's what you gonna use. The Besorah and the Torah of truth. Listen, it's all controlled in you by the Ruach HaKodesh. You have to know and allow it to bring it to your remembrance and then say it. Whosoever shall say unto this mountain, be thou removed and be thou cast into the sea. Whosoever shall say unto the dart that's been thrusted in his presence. Whosoever shall say, you got to speak this stuff. By the word, by the Besorah of truth, by the Torah of truth, you got to speak the word. And then he says, praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Ruach. Listen, praying always with all prayers, praying with your understanding, praying in tongues, praying in the Ruach, praying, singing supplication, singing in the Ruach, singing prayer with your understanding, right? You do all of these things by the Ruach HaKodesh. And watching thereunto in all perseverance. You cannot sit around and not watch what's happening. You got to know what's happening. And the Ruach HaKodesh is going to discern it. He's going to show you. Man of Yah, woman of Yah, this battle is in the heart of it. Ruach. Right? It's Ruach. It is spirit motivated, right? We wrestle not against flesh and blood. We fight not against flesh and blood, right? In its purest form, it's spiritual, right? But there are things that occur in the natural. Finally, my brethren, be strong in Yahuah. Praying and persevering with all supplication for all saints. See? Because we're stronger together. One will put 1,000 in flight. Two will put 10,000 in flight. Ruachly. Right? By the spirit of might. And by the unity of the spirit. That's why it's for all saints. For all the qodeshiym. Right? With all perseverance and supplication for all the qodeshiym. You want all the qodeshiym to understand the need for the Ruach HaKodesh and to function in that Ruach. In the unity of the Ruach. He said, listen, right? He says, and for me, pray for me that utterance may be given unto me, that I may open my mouth boldly. Look, pray for me. Yoaki, Yaakov Yahudah. That Yahuah may continue to cause me to speak the Besorah of truth by the Ruach HaKodesh, not for gain, but for the advancement of his people, to establish the unity of the Ruach, the unity that's in the Ruach HaKodesh, in the bond of peace. The unity of the Ruach in the bond of peace. He says, listen, for which I am an ambassador in bonds, that therein I may speak boldly as I ought. I'm going to speak your word. Boldly. As an ambassador. As a representative. And a high representative. An ambassador is a high representative. They've been established as an individual. Let's do this.
Strong's G 4243. Presbuo. Presbuo.
The word in the Greek is to be older, prior by birth or age. Let me see this right here. It ties. Okay. So it ties to the elders. Elders in the Hebrew faith are ambassadors by experience and age, having recognized Yahuah in all that he has been and done, right? Ambassadors. Paul says he's an ambassador. Shoot, I say I'm an ambassador. He says, for I am an ambassador in bonds, that therein I may speak boldly as I ought to speak. He's right. And then he goes on to say some things. And that's it. And then he closes out basically. He makes some requests. And then he closes out by saying, verse 23, peace be to the brethren. Peace. Peace be to the brethren. And love with faith. From Yahuah, our Abba, and Adonai Yahushua HaMashiach. Grace be with you all, that grace be to all them that love our Adonai Yahushua HaMashiach in sincerity. Amen. Man of Yah, woman of Yah, listen. It's about the Ruach HaKodesh. It's about the Ruach HaKodesh. The Ruach HaKodesh is a revealer of truth. The Ruach HaKodesh will lead you and guide you into all truth. The Ruach HaKodesh is by design to help facilitate peace. Only those without the Ruach HaKodesh seek not after peace. But we who are in the Ruach HaKodesh, we understand the importance of peace and the unity of the brethren. Right? We understand the truth. We understand righteousness. We understand the importance of the Besorah that brings peace. Right? The Besorah brings peace to those who have an ear to hear. The Besorah brings peace. The Besorah reconciles you back to Yahuah. If you are Hebrew, it reconciles you back to Yahuah. If you are Gentiles, it brings you in to a relationship with Yahuah. And faith. Can't do it without faith. It's impossible to please Yahuah. Without faith, it's impossible to please you. Without faith, you gonna fail. Yeah, the darts are gonna come and you gonna concede. Right? Without faith, it's impossible to please Yahuah. Because they that come to Yahuah must first believe that he is and that he rewards them that diligently seek him. You got to have the faith that is necessary to quench everything that the enemy shoots at you. And you can. Above all. Above all. He says above all. He said, above all, taking the shield of faith, you got to have emunah. You have to have emunah what the word says. Because faith cometh by hearing, hearing by the word. You have to have emunah what the word says. If Yahushua said, you should ask anything in my name, I'll give it to you. You have to have emunah in that Besorah of truth. Whoever shall say unto this mountain, be thou removed and be thou cast into the sea, and shall not doubt in his heart, but believe those things which he says shall come to pass. Believe those things which he says shall come to pass. Believe the things that he says. He should have what he says. You got to believe that. You have to have that as established emunah. So that when the devil says, look, man, you ain't got no job, you ain't going to make it. What? Listen, Yahuah is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that I can ask or think. A job, I got a job. He has a job. And I wait for the manifestation of what he says because I have what he says. Now, of course, I look and I pursue. But I have to trust him in emunah. That's what my faith says. I don't listen to what the fiery darts say. I don't listen to what people say. Oh, man, wow, that's a tough position, man. Listen, I ain't in no tough position. But what? What? He's able to do exceedingly. Come on. That's quenching the fiery darts. Hasatan sends things to attack your faith. But you got to stand above all by faith. Because above all, you have to stand by everything that you do has to be by emunah. You have to receive the Ruach HaKodesh by emunah. You have to receive the witness of Yahushua by emunah. You got to live and die by emunah. That's why it's above all. You got to believe it. You got to believe. You got to release your faith in the Besorah of truth. In the preparation of the gospel. The gospel prepares you for this. Not the gospel, I'm sorry. That's the God spell. But the Besorah prepared you for this. The Besorah of truth prepared you for this. Yahushua said, listen to the disciples. Listen, wait. I've been teaching you. I've been showing you. I've been putting it all in you. But you're going to need the Ruach HaKodesh. It's going to reveal to you everything that I've said. You're going to need it. The Besorah of truth. Man of Yah, woman of Yah, that's all I have today. We are Yahuwah's weapons. We are Yahuwah's weapons. Let's see if I get that back. We are Yahuwah's weapons. And I'm closing out. Man of Yah, called to greatness. Woman of Yah, beautifully and wonderfully made. We the weapons of Yahuah. We Torah guardians. We are avengers. We can't be defeated. What you fighting for? If you don't want to be a soldier, we can't be defeated from the Torah. Man of Yah, woman of Yah, woman of Yah, man of Yah, called the greatness. Woman of Yah, beautifully and wonderfully made. Yahuwah has favored you. With that, I say Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Dawid, child of Yah. Yahuwah's weapons of war. I don't hold the right to this music. Shabbat Shalom.
Torah garden, speaking the absolute truth. Torah nation.